says, I don't care about MVPs, it's not important to me, then he's not telling the truth either. So a lot of this is just you can't really win. And winning a third one, considering only a handful of guys have ever done it, I thought it was, look, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Look, he hasn't been good for 2 years. You were feeling great about shorting Aaron Rodgers for like 15 years, which you probably would have lost money on it because you were on it so early. And then he's come back and maybe he wins it again. But I still think the Mahomes stuff. By the way, can we jump to what you said before? Because I was losing it over here.
Okay.
I mean, whether we went History Channel, Normandy, analytics, 2-star recruits. I agree with you on the Heisman quarterback theory, but sometimes things happen and it actually doesn't mean anything. The MVP run is an incredibly interesting stat, and then you turn it into a segment, and I'm afraid I might not get invited back here. But think about how close it was. Mahomes, if there's not an offsides, that's an MVP win in a Super Bowl year, all right? So they would have won the Super Bowl. Brady's shootout with Philly, he wins an MVP that year. He was unbelievable in the Super Bowl. The defense was terrible. He also has the 2010 MVP, the 2007 where Brady was undefeated, and if it's not for David Tyree, then an MVP wins a Super Bowl. So I think it's something that happens, but it doesn't mean that from now on you go, you know what I really want? I want a quarterback that's just kind of like right at number 6, number 7. That's what I'm looking for.
Listen, I like the pushback. I'm always fond of the pushback. That's why I bring you on the show to push back, because I'm almost never wrong, but occasionally it happens. Okay.
Maybe, yes,
okay.
Maybe.
So people think sometimes we do stuff for clicks, but we both know each other, and I've been on this for like 4 weeks. I watch Pittsburgh play. They can't throw deep. They can't run the ball. They can't catch the ball. I look at them and I'm like, I don't care about their record. I don't care. That is not a Super Bowl team. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I think you're dismissive. I mean, if I have to sit here and tell you you're wrong and then pick the Steelers to win the Super Bowl, I'm not going to do that because I'm just going to pick anybody against the Chiefs. I'm just not going to. But Pittsburgh's defense, any category you want to look at, you can go traditional stuff, you can go advanced metrics, anything you want to look at is like at worst the third or fourth defense in the league. And it's been that way all year long, even with some of the losses in that front seven. And the reason why they've still been able to be pretty good defensively is that front has been so impressive from just a depth standpoint. Now, that Bills game was ugly. I don't know what to tell you. Joy's absolutely right. They're not a physical team. They struggle to run the football. They've had some decisions in short yardage scenarios where you're like, okay, who are you right now? But they found a way with this incredible receiving core to let Ben approach the game differently by not taking deep shots, and they've been able to move it. Look, the loss to Washington is an incredibly underrated defensive team.
Yeah.
I was dismissive. I was like, you're losing all these games. So they've ripped off a few. So they hit them at the right time. That defense is really good. And Buffalo, whose defense actually is a lot worse this year than it was last year. Maybe it's getting better. I just thought that was the kind of game we watched it together. Buffalo was clearly the better football team, but I'm not just writing off and putting teams like Tennessee and Cleveland as automatic wins against Pittsburgh right now.
Ryen Russillo, the Ryen Russillo podcast, part of the Ringer, Bill Never Calls Me. So let's just be honest. Let's not have any qualifiers on Brady. I'm just going to say to you, when you watch Tom Brady, I do think Tampa looks like a collection of talent and not a team. That's why they're so wildly inconsistent. It's got kind of an AAU basketball feel to it, where I know the guys are all great, but they're all kind of doing their own thing. But let's just talk Brady. When you watch Brady today, is he good? Is he average? Forget the stats. What do you see? Physicality, arm, all in.
He's good. This is the best I've seen him throw the football in 3 years. I'm actually blown away by it. I mean, there was that Carolina game where they put a 40 where I couldn't believe the velocity and just juice behind some of these throws. It was really impressive. And, you know, part of it is the offense, but from an arm standpoint at 43, that's not the question at all. It's clearly that Tom is in a situation where he's not as comfortable because it's all new guys, where in New England, you're coming into his world. It's his offense. It's an evolution of almost 2 decades of him understanding all the different things that he wants you to do. A lot of it is those quick routes off the line of scrimmage where they just understood with the rule changes that they'd get separation and they'd move the sticks that way. So I think it's been him not necessarily always comfortable, but if you're saying, hey, he's not the same old Brady, okay, yeah, fine. He's not the best quarterback in the league. He's really probably not one of the top 4 or 5. But he's still really, really good. And this Tampa team, despite the record, has moments where I go, look, they're at the opposite ends throughout the entire season, Colin. We know that. They've had marquee games where they look awful, and they've had other games where they've beaten good teams. I thought the Minnesota win was a nice win considering who the Vikings had been. So I like the way he's looked, but I don't look at him as the guy that's leading the league anymore. I don't think anyone else should.
I got to ask you an NBA question. Joy and I were talking about this yesterday. I read the article on Harden, and I said yesterday, I said, wait a minute. Am I bothered by what he did, Or am I just bothered because he doesn't win? Because if he won a title, I wouldn't give a rip if he went to strip clubs and showed up late to practice. Michael Jordan punched teammates was difficult. LeBron can be a diva. So you're a guy with an incredible NBA Rolodex. And I know we both knew this stuff was going on. I mean, I was told this stuff, and you've got a deeper Rolodex of NBA guys than I do. And I do read it, and I think this is cartoonish. And I think, no, what bothers me about Harden is he unravels in the playoffs. I don't give a rip about this stuff. So are you bothered by the lack of winning or his actions? And do you think this goes on everywhere, or Harden is just really uniquely diva?
Well, okay, that's a lot of different things. First of all, just because you win doesn't mean everybody's doing the right things all the time, all right? So I think we both understand that. There's plenty of teams that have won championships where you'd go, wait, that guy does that, or he doesn't like him, or what's going on there? So that stuff happens. That's not a problem. I also think the diva part of it, these front offices and ownership are so scared because you need one of these 5, really probably more 5 than 10 guys in the league, but they're so important to have on your team because if you don't have it, you don't have a chance that you start to cater to them. But what I'd ask, which I thought was so funny about the article, and you and I have been laughing about this, is that Westbrook, who controlled everything in Oklahoma City, okay? From the temperature to which reporters he talked to if you were a big, you weren't allowed to get rebounds off a free throw. Like, you had to let Westbrook get the rebound. It was understood that he goes from that dominant force culture to Houston is like, man, this place is messed up. Like, think about that. Think about it. Now, Westbrook's argument would be, we show up on time. Houston's approach apparently is like, plane departures were like suggestions, okay? So all of this stuff starts to come out because now once your guy has turned on you, like Harden has turned on Houston. This happened when LeBron left Cleveland the first time. A big article about all the concessions that they had to make to LeBron. I don't mind concessions. I don't even mind the divas asking for this stuff. Sometimes I wish I were more delusional in my career and just be like, yeah, I'm awesome. Like, do more stuff for me. But what I'd ask any of these guys, and I think this is the point that you're getting to here, is, does this help you win? Is winning important, or do you just post stuff on Instagram where you're like, man, I'm built for one thing? You're like, what? Max contracts and freedom of travel? So that's the part that is frustrating because it feels like, and look, Harden's playoff resume is flame out central, okay? Flame outs all over the place. I don't understand why Houston fans still defend him. He doesn't want anything to do with you. Westbrook loses in the first round all the time unless he goes somewhere else. So we could be really unfair and say it's only happening, they're only losing because of these guys' approach. But I think there's other teams that also cater to guys that actually win games. It just looks this bad when you want out and you're in Vegas and Atlanta and then you have media availability and you're like, yeah, I was my personal trainer. What's the problem?
Right. All right, Ryen, we'll talk soon. Great seeing you, buddy. You've really done a nice job sprucing up the place. I knew you know, when you used to... Anyway, you're doing well for yourself. Congrats. You got like 2 coffee makers or something back there. Way to go, buddy. Nice talking.
Yeah, thanks, man. Espresso.
All right, Ryen Russillo podcast. Bill doesn't call me. I'll just drop that out again. All right, coming up next, I do this about once every 3 weeks. If the playoffs started today, here's what they look like. Here's who I pick, and here's who ends up in the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, there's some great playoff games if it ended today. Some unbelievable playoff games. Star quarterbacks going up against each other. No better story than a Cinderella story. A lower-seeded team overlooked by the odds makers, by the 1 seeds. Everybody rises through the ranks. That is the story, my friends, of Pure Talk USA, Simply Smarter Wireless. Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T are the 1 seeds. Big and powerful. Gouge you for data you'd never use. Charge you for perks that are irrelevant. But you pay for them, not at Pure Talk. You get unlimited talk, unlimited text, and 2 gigs of data. $20 a month. Don't change your phone. Don't change your number. Don't have to. Can if you want. Because you're on the exact same tower as one of the big dogs. So you get the same great coverage. And let me get you 50% additionally off in the first month. I'm like Santa. Lord, reindeer's the only thing I'm missing. Get your phone, grab it, dial pound 250 and say Colin Cowherd. Dial pound 250 and say my name, 50% off. Average family with Pure Talk USA is saving $800 a year.